Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this Thursday afternoon. Sorry for being a little bit late. I did get held up in a meeting for a few minutes, but regardless, let's go right ahead and talk about what we're going to be covering on this podcast. So, the first segment is going to be talking about the Celtics winning in the series against the Cavs, talk about the final game, the outcome of this series, and any other things that I sort of have. And second segment is going to be talking about the Mavericks and their series against the OKC. The Mavericks ended up bouncing back, winning in Game 5, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that game as well. And then in the third segment, we have some drama on the Cleveland Cavaliers and their roster. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that and sort of explain. And then in the fourth segment, we are going to talk about the Lakers and who they are going to get as the new head coach, who's going to be the most likely person to be the coach. And Paul Pierce did have some comments towards JJ Redick, who is in the contention of being the new coach for the Lakers. We also have a fifth segment that which I'm going to reveal after the fourth segment, so stay tuned for that. Before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. It is GSMCPodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is GSMCPodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and talk about the Celtics game that happened last night. And now that the Celtics win Game 5, the series is over. So the Celtics, they don't have to play another game until the next winner of the Eastern Conference semifinals is decided between the Knicks and the Pacers. And they're currently still in the series, and they're going to play Game 6 in hopes that the Knicks can close out, or that if the Pacers, since they do play at home, they might win Game 6, which will force a Game 7, thus giving the Boston Celtics more time to rest up. So this series, it was, again, 4-1, so really wasn't that close, and this series is sort of a repeat of how the Celtics dealt with the Miami Heat. They won Game 1, sort of took it easy in Game 2, and in Game 2, the other team capitalized by hitting a lot of three-pointers, more so than you would expect. Then in the next few games, the Celtics continued to dominate and won the last 3 games to make the series 5-1. It's almost a complete repeat of what they did in the first round against the Miami Heat. And Celtics in this game, Jason Tatum, he ended the game with 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. So he played very impressive in this game. Drew Holiday, he only had 13 points in this elimination game. Al Horford had 22 points and 15 rebounds in this elimination game. I told you he's also a pretty viable option on the Celtics to be their starter, and he's proven that in this game. 22 points and 15 rebounds on 35 minutes is insane. And let's see, just looking at the rest of the box scores, Jaylen Brown, he didn't really play well this game. He only had 11 points, but again, he only took 9 shots, so he made them count, I guess you could say. Derek White, he had 18 points in this game, but he shot very poorly, 7 for 17 from the field. And the rest of the team, they shot very well from 3, as a whole. The team shot 19 of 43 from the three-point line, which is 44%. They took a lot of three-pointers, and they also shot 52% from the field in this elimination game. Again, this is how you're supposed to play in an elimination game, regardless of what side you're on, whether you're on the winner or the losing side of the elimination game, and you're the one that's in the deficit in the series. This is how you're supposed to play in an elimination game right here. The Cavs, on the other hand, they did not play very well in this elimination game. So, except for Evan Mobley, And Evan Mobley, he ended the game with 33 points. He did take 24 shots, however, but 15 for 24, that's all right, I guess. I mean, in the elimination game, simply because, like, it is an elimination game, there is a lot of pressure. Darius Garland did not play well in this elimination game at all. He shot 4 for 17 from the field, and he only scored 11 points, which is really, really bad for an elimination game. Max Strus did not play well in this elimination game either. And the fact that Marcus Morris was the second best player on the Cavs, 10 for 13 from the field in this elimination game, is a big problem for the Cavs. Like, Garland is supposed to be that second option, and here he is going 4 for 17 from the field. And he was also very underwhelming this season. I thought for sure he was going to take a leap and become a 22, 25 point per game scorer, but that hasn't happened yet. And he's averaged 18 points and 6 assists, which isn't bad, but again, it's still like a step back from what I thought he would be, or how I thought he would be playing, especially in this playoff series. Like, I thought this would elevate him, but turns out it did the exact opposite. So, pretty bad news for the Cavs, and the Cavs, now they're out of the playoffs for the second straight season. And the Cavs, in franchise history, have only made it out the second round twice without LeBron James. And the last time they did that was 32 years ago. With LeBron, they made 6 Eastern Conference Finals. And it really hasn't been the same for the Cavs. However, I do have to give them props because this is the first time in literal decades that they look like a functioning team, and without LeBron James guiding them. However, there is drama around this Cavs team. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to save that for the third segment. So if you're interested in the Cavs drama, be sure you tune in to the third segment after I talk about the Mavericks and the OKC game. But I mean, like, the Celtics, I'm going to focus talking more about the Celtics. Like, they're just the better team in this series. They've always been the better team in every single series that they've played, and they've had it a little bit lucky, I will say. Like, even though they still outclass their opponent, they've had it lucky in the sense that they didn't have to play their opponent fully healthy. Like, they didn't, and honestly, it seems like that's going to be the case for the next round if the Knicks win. Because if the Knicks win in the next round, they're an injury prone team, and they're also a team that has a couple of players on the bench due to injury, like Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson. Those are very important players for the Knicks, and they're not going to be in the rotation against the Boston Celtics. So again, the Celtics are going to have even more of an advantage going into the series because the Knicks aren't healthy. Similar to how the Miami Heat wasn't healthy since they didn't have Jimmy Butler playing in the series, and similar to how Donovan Mitchell wasn't healthy after Game 4 due to a calf strain. And once Donovan Mitchell went out with a calf strain, the series was basically done and decided. And similar to how when Jimmy Butler went out for the Miami Heat, the series was done and decided. The series was already decided before the series even started. There was no way in hell that the Celtics were going to lose that series or any of those series when those players were injured. It looked dreary in Game 2, but it's been looking dreary in Game 2 for the Celtics team every single time in the series. And again, even though it is a little bit easier, that doesn't mean that they weren't going to win, and Jimmy Butler would have made that much of a difference. Because Jimmy did say, if I played in the series, then things would have been different. No, they wouldn't have. I'm sorry, they wouldn't have been different. The Celtics team is ridiculous. The Celtics team it outmatches everybody else in the Eastern Conference. And Hopefully, the Knicks could beat them. They do have a solid chance, but then again, just a solid chance. There's no guarantee, given how overpowered the Celtics are and their roster is. This is by far their best team that they've had with Jason Tatum, in and their best team with in the Celtics overall in a while. So we'll see how the Knicks and the Pacers series go. They do not play tonight, unfortunately, for whatever reason. I have no idea why they're not playing tonight. They will play tomorrow, however, at 8:30, and obviously, I'm going to be tuning into that game, but I'm very surprised that they aren't going to be playing tonight. It's a little. Maybe it's because they have to shift the series over to Indiana, which is why they aren't going to be playing tonight. But the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, they are going to be playing tonight. So I might as well go ahead and give my predictions for that game. I think the Nuggets are going to easily close them out. And granted, my picks so far, they haven't really been that good. So if you should probably vote against the Timberwolves, because Ant did say, "See you in Game 7." So I don't think he has any intention of losing that game. And Ant is dangerous. He's very dangerous. So that's all I got to say on this first segment. So we are out of time. And now we will go ahead and go into the second segment, where I talk about the Dallas Mavericks and the Thunder and their playoff series and how that's going right now, how it's looking for them. So I will be right back after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Let me just adjust my camera real quick. There we go. And in the second segment, we are going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks bouncing back in game 5 and making the series 3-2. So before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. The link is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is GSMCPodcast.net. And with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and talk about the Mavericks and their Game 5 performance against OKC. And let me just go ahead and pull up the box scores without accidentally pulling up clips, please. Thank you. So, the Mavericks, I wasn't expecting the Mavericks to win this game simply because before going into this game, Luka had just about every single injury imaginable in this game. He had like a strain on his left calf, he had a strain on his right calf, he had a back problem, this, that, and the other. He had all sorts of injuries and things that could have affected his performance in this game, but that did not seem to bother him in the slightest whatsoever. He played through it. He played 41 minutes, and he dropped a 30-point triple-double on the Oklahoma City Thunder to make the series 3-2, which is a phenomenal performance coming in from Luka in this very important game that they desperately needed, because now with this win, they can go into Dallas and close the series out in 6 games. They have a very good chance of doing so. And again, Luka, 31 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. That was his triple-double. He also shot pretty well from the field. He shot a lot better than what we're used to, he's been shooting in this series and the previous series, because when he was up against the Clippers, I'm not even going to lie to you, he was throwing the ball up a lot, and they were missing a lot. And it was not ideal for the Mavericks, but now it seems that he's found his sort of touch yet again. And again, 12 for 22, that is above 50%, so it's definitely a pretty good performance. Derrick Jones Jr., he ended the game with 19 points and was 7 of 9 from the field. Kyrie was only 5 for 11 with 12 points, but I guess it doesn't really matter how low you score as long as you win. So, because, a win is a win, and that, you know me, I always say that, a win is a win is a win. And with Luka Doncic's performance in this game and in the rest of the series, it's really apparent that this man knows how to play in the postseason. He seems to just play better in the postseason than he does in the regular season, which is a very difficult feat to accomplish due to all the pressure, especially with the offense that he runs, where he is the centerpiece of their offense and he is the main playmaker. The fact that he's still able to perform under such immense pressure and under these injuries is nothing short of astonishing. It's really it's amazing. There's no other word to say it other than amazing. And on the Thunder side, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has also been amazing. He's been scoring 30 points in just about every single game. It doesn't seem to matter whether or not it's the postseason or the regular season. He's still the same player for the Thunder, which is incredibly valuable for the Thunder as a whole. But I will say that the rest of the team, not so much. It's just Shai in this series, and the team was sort of getting praised for having so many really talented rookies, and they're not showing up. And really talented rookies, talented stars, talented young stars, because not all of them are rookies, obviously, but a lot of them, like Jalen Williams, who has been a pretty good second scoring option for the Thunder, has been playing very poorly in this series. He averages 19 points per game throughout the season, but in this game he only had 12 points and shot 6 of 13 from the field, which is, again, that's just below 50%, but when you take more shots than you have points scored, I just immediately think that that's a pretty bad performance. I'm sure we all can agree on that. If you have more shot attempts than you do points scored, that's not ideal for a team in any situation whatsoever. Lou Dort, he shot 4 for 11 from the field. Chet Holmgren, he shot 5 for 11 from the field with 13 points. Chet has been very underwhelming in this series, and I wonder where all that talk went. Oh, he should have been the Rookie of the Year. Oh, he's better than Victor Wembanyama. Like, where's all that now? Chet has never been the best player on the Thunder, and he's not even producing efficiently anymore for the Thunder. And I keep saying that he needs to get more involved in the offense if they wanted to sort of have a chance, but so far I haven't seen that happen from him whatsoever. Now, that might be because Shai is taking a lot of the shots and things of that nature, but aside from that, like, I mean, he's supposed to be, or at least the media makes him out to be, the second option for this team. So the fact that he's not producing enough offensively is really not ideal for this Thunder team, and I'm kind of stunned at the fact that he isn't trying to get more involved in this offense. Because why wouldn't you want to try and get more involved in this offense? You're super tall, and there's barely anybody on the court that can contest your shot. Why aren't you getting involved more? I feel like that's something that Chet is going to work on in the offseason, and so is the Thunder. They are still a relatively young team. This is the first time that they've ever been in a playoff situation. But regardless, I do still expect a lot more from Chet, and in this series has been rather underwhelming for him. And same with the rest of a lot of these players. I mean, Isaiah Joe, he was 2 of 9 from the field, and Cason Wallace was 1 for 7 from the field. So, again, it's really just a one-man army with Shai, who's consistently dropping 30 points, and then whatever comes in between. Now, again, that's actually very similar to how the Mavericks started out in the playoffs with Luka alone. Because in the first few series, then when they matched up against the Clippers, it was literally just like in 2020 and in 2021, it was literally just Luka Doncic trying to do everything, and then the rest of the players tried to pick up the slack. But the rest of the players just weren't picking up the slack. It's a very similar story for this OKC team. And again, rather disappointed in the performance from Chet. And the Mavericks, they're looking to close this series out in 6 games because they do play the next game in Dallas. And based on how they've been playing this series with Kyrie and Luka Doncic, I mean, Kyrie, he's due for a good game, so I'm pretty sure that's going to happen in Game 6 when they're at home in front of the Dallas Mavericks crowd. So expect to see a pretty good performance from Kyrie, a pretty good elimination game. He's always been pretty good in elimination games throughout his career in the postseason. So wouldn't be surprised if he's due for a good game. And I did mention the final score. It was 104-92. And there wasn't really much scoring coming. What the heck was that? There wasn't really much scoring in the, coming from the rest of the role players. But between Luka and Shai, there was a lot of scoring. So Shai had 30, and then Luka had 31. So that somewhat cancels out, and then it's up to the team to outperform the other team. Excuse me. And the Dallas Mavericks, they ended up outperforming the Thunder in the as a team. And they shot 40% from 3 compared to the Thunder shooting 25% from 3, which, again, not ideal if you're shooting that badly from 3. Makes total sense why they ended up losing. So that's all I have to say on this series. Expect the Mavericks to play the next game in Game 6 and most likely come out on top in that game. So next I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Cavs yet again, but this time there is some drama surrounding the locker room with a lot of problems between Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and even Jared Allen. So I will be right back after this short break, so stay tuned for that.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast. Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Now, in this third segment, we are going to be talking about the drama around the Cavs right after they lost to the Boston Celtics. Literally, immediately after they lost, this drama and this information sort of unveiled. And we'll start with the first one. So, because there is a couple of things that's the problem. So, Donovan Mitchell has reportedly grown frustrated due to the... Hold on, I'm just adjusting it. There we go. So Donovan Mitchell has reportedly grown frustrated by some teammates' lack of maturity and focus. When your star player is upset at the rest of the team due to their immaturity, that's a very big problem. Like, how on earth can you be so immature? And define immaturity. Like, was it the fact that they weren't taking the playoffs seriously? Was it the fact that they weren't taking the season seriously? I don't know exactly the details behind that. But being upset to a team due to a lack of maturity was the same problem that Jimmy Butler had when he was on the Timberwolves. And that caused him to want to leave the Timberwolves and force a trade out due to their immaturity. And I'm sorry, but like, if you're in the NBA and you lack maturity, what is wrong with you? Like, I'm being so serious when I say that, and I'm usually not disrespectful towards NBA players, but what exactly is wrong with you? Like, your goal is to try and win. And you're telling me that you lack maturity in the locker room to want to win? Like, how is that? How does that work? That does not make any sense to me whatsoever. And especially when we're talking about grown men. I understand that this Cavs team is rather young and still not NBA vets, I guess you could say, or like not considered NBA veterans, but still, the lack of maturity and the fact that they even lack maturity is stunning to me. Because when you're in the postseason, you gotta be focused. And if you're not focused, you're not gonna win, which is probably what he's really upset about. So, next on the list is the Lakers and the Nets. They already have trade offers ready for Donovan Mitchell, which is very good since the Nets really, really need that. Please don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up. The Nets have a history of doing god-awful trades and messing up the trades horribly. I mean, they've done that twice, like, in recent history. They traded for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, did not end up working out, and those picks ended up being Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So they actually made the Celtics better with that trade. Then they trade for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and they also trade for James Harden. James Harden requests out after Kyrie and his little shenanigans off the court. And then we get Ben Simmons, and then Kyrie decides, I don't want to play for the Brooklyn Nets anymore. Bye-bye, and then requests a trade to Dallas, which then forces Kevin Durant to request a trade to Phoenix, blowing up the entire roster and leaving us with the worst member of the entire Big Three, Ben Simmons. So, fantastic. And as for the Lakers, I honestly think like the Lakers are just thrown in there simply because they're always thrown in there when we're talking about big-time free agents. It doesn't matter if it's Paul George, it doesn't matter if it's Kawhi, it doesn't matter if it's DeMarcus Cousins in his prime, it doesn't matter if it's Michael Jordan for all we care about. Like, they get all the superstar attention. Even Kyrie Irving. Like, there were talks that Kyrie Irving was going to get traded to the Lakers, and that never happened whatsoever. Not to mention DeJounte Murray or Trae Young. So, I think the Lakers are sort of just thrown in there, and they're not going to accept any kind of trade, but it is very interesting that immediately after the Cavs lose, we got teams already deciding to pursue Donovan Mitchell in this trade. Now, another piece of drama is that some members of the Cavs were a little bit frustrated with Jarrett Allen after he refused an injection to try and numb the pain and play through his rib injury. So, again, Jarrett, as a former Net, I really, really like Jarrett Allen, but given how he refused this, my opinion on him has sort of worsened. Simply because, like, he's just not that guy. Like, he's not the guy that I thought he was. And last year in the postseason when they lost, he said the lights were too bright, meaning that he was incredibly nervous, and his performance showed. And now that he just refused to take an injection to play that would help his team win, it seems like he doesn't want to play in the postseason, and he didn't want to help his team win, which is something that I just cannot stand. If you have the ability to play the game and to help your team win, you gotta lace up and you gotta go out there and play for the sake of your team. Because not doing that is just going to leave a sour impression on not just your teammates, but the rest of your fans. Because now we're getting this confirmation, and it's like, Jarrett Allen could have played in this game, but he decided not to because he was a big scaredy cat. Like, you can't do that. Like, you simply cannot sit through and it's the same problem that I had with Ben Simmons when Ben Simmons was allegedly going to play in Game 4 and help the Brooklyn Nets win, and then right at the end, hold on, let me actually snap my fingers properly, right at the end of right before Game 4 was going to start, he was ruled out. And that infuriated me to the bone. This infuriates me to the bone. Because how are you going to be a second option for your team and you don't even want to help them win a playoff series? That is unacceptable to me. And, if I was out there, if I was 7'1", put me in, coach. Unless my arm is broken, I don't care. Put me in. That should be the mentality that everyone has. But no, they got to be spoiled. And I can't stand that. Now, there's more drama, surprisingly. Rival executives believe that the Cavs are going to have to choose between Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, while the Cavs are also optimistic about securing Donovan Mitchell's contract extension. Now, rival executives expect Darius Garland's camp to potentially look for a new team if Mitchell remains on Cleveland, meaning that it looks like the two of them just aren't meshing properly. So if Donovan Mitchell stays on Cleveland, then they're going to lose Darius Garland. And honestly, good trade-off. If I were the Cavs, that's a good trade-off. Get Darius Garland out of here. Based off of his terrible performance in Game 5, get him out of here. And Donovan Mitchell is clearly the better option between the two guards, but they're going to have to choose. And multiple players, including Donovan Mitchell, question J.B. Bickerstaff's coaching strategies and accountability measures throughout the season. And Bickerstaff's job is in jeopardy. The Cavs will make a decision in the coming days. That's all the drama that we have for the Cavs, and it's a lot of drama to unfold. So it's really just going to be surrounded on what Donovan Mitchell wants to do, what Darius Garland is going to do in response to what Donovan Mitchell wants to do, and what the Cavs want to do with their head coach. And honestly, it's going to be very, very interesting for this offseason. I think that the Cavs are going to try and pursue Donovan with that max, and Donovan Mitchell is going to take the max because obviously why wouldn't you take the max? And due to Donovan Mitchell taking the max, that is going to force Darius Garland out of Cleveland and thus opening up the trade blocks for other teams, which I'm not going to be surprised if the Lakers are going to pounce on that trade deal and try to get Darius Garland on the Lakers and see if he's going to be a better option for the team, because quite frankly, I think the Lakers are sick of D'Lo. I know I'm sick of D'Lo, so I wouldn't be surprised if the rest of the Lakers roster is sick of that man. And again, this is going to all be decided once Donovan Mitchell makes his decision, but given how he doesn't like the lack of maturity on the team, maybe he's going to want out anyway. Unless the Cavs can do some serious changes in the roster, which I doubt. Like, I'm sorry, but the Cavs front office is horrible. Like, it's plain and simple. They failed to give LeBron help for what feels like thousands of years, and they've messed up signings, they've messed up trades, they've messed up absolutely everything that you could, which ultimately drove LeBron out. So I think this is going to be no different for the Cavs. The Cavs are going to do Cavs things, and this is a simple Cavs team. The Cavs thing of having a terrible front office. And honestly, imagine if they choose Darius Garland over Donovan Mitchell. That would be absolutely hilarious. But regardless, we are out of time for this third segment. That's all the drama that I have to cover with the Cavs. And now we are going to go into the fourth segment where I talk about JJ Redick and the possibility of him being the new coach for the Lakers. So I will be right back after this short break.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be talking about who the Lakers' new coach is going to be. And the person who is in the front runner to take that new coaching role is JJ Redick. So, if you guys been keeping up with the podcast, a few months ago, I mentioned how LeBron and JJ Redick were starting a podcast together where they talked nothing but basketball and how it was going to be such a very intense conversation due to the high IQ that both of those players have. And after a while, that has gained a lot of traction, and ever since then, they've just been talking nothing but basketball, and it's very, very intelligent. You can tell that JJ Redick has a high IQ in basketball, and you can obviously tell that LeBron has such a high IQ in basketball as well. And due to them being so close with each other and them being like buddy-buddy, it wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers decide to get him as the new head coach. So months after they started their podcast, Darvin Ham got fired. And there's really no surprise that Darvin Ham was going to get fired. He was a horrible head coach. He was horrible with the rotations. He was horrible with the plays. He was just terrible. Everything about Darvin Ham was terrible. And it's really it's not surprising. I mean, LeBron cooked him when Darvin Ham used to play basketball. So it's really not surprising that Darvin Ham's IQ is not on par with LeBron. Simple as that. And I'm sorry for trashing on Darvin Ham, but it's that simple. He's a horrible coach. Horrible. Almost as bad as Steve Nash. But regardless, since LeBron and JJ Redick have a really close relationship, now there is rumors that JJ Redick is going to assume the role as the Lakers head coach and replace Darvin Ham, which wouldn't be surprising, seeing as LeBron and JJ Redick, they do see eye to eye in some points when you listen to their podcasts, and they do seem to have a very big brain for basketball. Paul Pierce, however, he has his doubts. Of course he has his doubts. I mean, if you listen to Paul Pierce, it seems that the only reason why he exists now is to hate on LeBron. And I know that sounds harsh for me to say, but that's all he does. And I'm sorry, Paul Pierce, but you're never going to be better than LeBron, no matter how badly you want him to be. And LeBron is better than you. It's that simple, and he just can't He just can't stand to hear that. He cannot stand the thought that LeBron is just better than him. And he cannot stand the fact that LeBron has dominated him throughout the entirety of his career and is still dominating in the NBA. So he's a certified hater. I am sorry to say it. He is a certified hater. And Kevin Garnett even called him out for his hating. He was like, at one point when Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce were on the podcast, and like we're on their own podcast, on their own show, Kevin Garnett was talking to Paul Pierce like, he would dog you. You know he would dog you. It doesn't matter how old he is. He would dog both of us. And because Kevin Garnett, he has incredible respect for LeBron James as opposed to Paul Pierce, who has literally zero respect for LeBron James, which is very disappointing coming in from Paul Pierce. Like, I understand that, like, you're going to be butthurt about LeBron just owning you in every single playoff series and LeBron making you his Eastern Conference doormat throughout the entirety of your career. But regardless, it's like, you got to put respect where respect is due, and he's just butthurt at this point. So, the quote that he had was, "You hear JJ Redick on podcasts, they draw up plays. It sounds like he has a great IQ, like he has a great voice for coaching. It's like an Instagram model. It looks good all on there, and then you see it in person, it ain't what you think." That's what he had to say about JJ Redick and the possibility of him being the coach. And like, it's a very unconventional way to make his points, but there are arguments for that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not entirely true, because again, coaching basketball and talking basketball are two completely different things. So there's no telling just how good JJ Redick is going to be as the new Lakers head coach, if he's even appointed as the new Lakers head coach. Like, we still have no idea whether or not he's going to even be the head coach for the Lakers. Like, it's just a very, very high chance given his relationship with LeBron on the podcast. And it's really like, I mean, again, not entirely sure how it's going to play out, because he could be selected, but at the same time he could also not be selected, and I wouldn't be surprised about either of them. And if anything, he would be selected due to the connection that he has with LeBron James and just how they talk basketball together. Because whatever JJ says, chances are LeBron is going to like agree with that, like, without a problem. And whatever LeBron says, JJ is most likely going to agree with that without a problem. Not only that, but Redick has also he also has pretty good experience as a player, being a role player, understanding rotations, and everything else in between. So I don't think it's anything like Paul Pierce's analogy. I actually am pretty optimistic about him being the coach, but then again, I sort of have to, I do have to think it through. Because, while I am optimistic, I'm also a little pessimistic due to the fact that Steve Nash was also a very good player when he was in the NBA. He was a very smart player, and he was also he was a very good point guard, very smart player, high IQ, but as a coach, he was not that good. He was a very bad coach. And his coaching schemes when he was on Brooklyn was give KD, give Kyrie, or give James Harden the ball, everyone get out the way and do something. That was basically what the offense looked like when he was on when he was the Brooklyn Nets' coach. And it somewhat hurted the team later on in their years. When Kyrie and Kevin Durant were the only ones left and they were playing against the Boston Celtics in the playoff series that they rematched in the first round, they were bad. They were absolutely horrible. Because again, the offense was just give Kyrie and Kevin Durant the ball and see what they can do. Everyone else get out the way. They did that. And in game 2, they were horrible. That was probably the worst game I've ever seen from either of those players. And and then Steve Nash was shortly fired right after. So again, wouldn't be surprised if this sort of backfires for the Lakers, in the sense that JJ Redick isn't going to be the head coach that everyone thought he was going to be. I'm a little optimistic just because, JJ Redick seems to know what he's talking about. But again, pessimistic because coaching and talking basketball, two completely different things. And as a player, completely different than being a coach. So still weighing my options there. And I'm not entirely sure exactly how good of a coach he's going to be. And speaking of good coaches, Doc Rivers had something to say about JJ Redick's comments towards Doc not taking accountability. He said, JJ Redick has had his best years under one coach, and you're looking right at him. And honestly, that's pretty savage coming from Doc, but regardless, I mean, that's just, no. It wasn't because of you, Doc. It was because of the amazing team on the Clippers that you guys had. It was because of Chris Paul being an elite playmaker. It was because of DeAndre Jordan being a great center and Blake Griffin being a great power forward. That's the reason why JJ Redick was able to perform under that offense with the playmaking of Chris Paul. Because Chris Paul, he has eyes behind his back. He has the biggest brain ever with basketball. He's one of the greatest point guards to ever live. And the only downside to him is just playoff performances. And that's really the only downside. Aside from that, he should be in the talking as being a top 5 point guard ever in the NBA. And when you have that talent, of course there's going to be, of course your team is going to play better because that's what Chris Paul does. At least when he was in his prime, Chris Paul made everyone else around him better. And with JJ Redick on the team as a shooter, how could you not make him better? All you got to do is give him the ball when he flares off a screen, and he's going to shoot that. It's that simple. And again, obviously, it's not entirely that simple, but that's more or less the plays that they would run with JJ Redick. Him running off the ball and catching the ball and shooting it right out of the gate. That's what he was really good at. Not to mention his catch and shooting ability. He could stand in one spot and get ready to shoot the ball, but no one was going to leave him open. It's that simple. So that's all that I have to say about JJ Redick and the possibilities of him being the new coach. And Paul Pierce's comments. Again, Paul Pierce is just butthurt that LeBron is better than him and LeBron is still playing and he's just on the bench and in his home on Undisputed, whatever it is that he is, and he's just hating to hate. That's all it is. I am not a big fan of Paul Pierce simply because of the type of person that he is and the type of person that he's become in retirement. I'd expect these retired players to have some sort of respect for a lot of these new-coming players, as well as players that have beaten them several times. But they're just immature, and they're really butthurt about the fact that they lost, and it infuriates me, because it's how old are you? How old are you that you're still upset about it? Let it go. But that's all I gotta say about that segment, about this fourth segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the fifth segment, where I have some very, very sad news about the TNT crew in between, Shaq, Chuck, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Ernie. So stay tuned for this really sad news. It's going to be a rather shorter segment than the rest of them, so just stay tuned because it's not good news. And we are back with the fifth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fifth segment, I have some bad news. And there is a possibility that the TNT cast between Shaq, Ernie, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Chuck is going to dissolve. So there's right now there's a current NBA media rights deal coming to an end, like with TNT, like the basketball. It's going to take a huge shift in broadcasting. So it seems that TNT has already lost the race to broadcast the NBA. According to The Ringer's Bill Simmons, NBC is going to take over from TNT once the new media rights deals have been signed. And due to the new media right, with TNT losing the media rights to cover these games, the crew on Inside the NBA on TNT, between all four of them, is going to be out of the TV screens starting in the next season, in 2025 and 2026. And TNT has been the host of the NBA Finals for multiple years and a staple for NBA broadcasting, and now it's coming to an end. It's excuse me, but it's really sad seeing that there is a possibility that the team is going to be breaking up, simply because, Charles Barkley says that he can leave TNT if it loses its NBA rights, and so wouldn't be surprised if Shaq, Kenny, and Chuck decide to leave and go to CBS and cover the games there. But I believe Ernie is most likely going to stay with TNT and do whatever it is that TNT needs him to do. It's just really sad because this crew has been around, it feels like they've been around since they've retired. And it's really sad seeing how this crew is going to be dissolved and just thrown away like that. CBS isn't going to keep the show running Inside the NBA on CBS this time. I really wish that CBS would have continued the halftime show with all of those people on the cast, but we're not entirely sure exactly what their decisions are going to be, and it does seem like this group is going to break up and go their separate ways, or go whichever way they decide to go. Hopefully they decide to just join CBS and their broadcasting team and bring back Inside the NBA, just this time on CBS, but it doesn't seem very likely. And Inside the NBA, it's the pregame show on TNT, and the halftime show that they have on TNT, and as well as the post-game show that they have on TNT. They have very good talks with each other. They all love to banter around. They love to have fun. They love to. There's so many legendary moments that you can name. There's Shaq breakdancing. There's Shaq being pushed into a Christmas tree. There's Shaq and Chuck fighting several times. There's everyone touching Ernie's bald head or Chuck's bald head. Just so many funny moments. And of course, how could I leave out Shaq saying, "Hey, how many rings you got? I have 4 rings. I have 3 finals MVPs. I've been the best player on my team." And then Chuck just calling him fat, Chuck calling him Shrek, all sorts of things that are just absolutely hilarious, because they're all friends at the end of the day, and they just love to banter with each other. And sometimes the NBA discussions turn into very heated debates between Shaq and Chuck, simply because Shaq refuses to let Chuck speak on anything. Whenever they talk finals, Shaq is just "Yeah, well, unlike you, we have experience winning in the finals." And it's Chuck is always the center of being made fun of. Even when Kevin Hart was on the show, there was a point where Kevin Hart, like, when they were talking about him announcing his retirement from the All-Star game, he was like, I've already reached greatness. Like, it's over. Like, Shaq, you already know what it feels like. Kenny, you know what it feels like. And then he turns over to Chuck and he's like, I'ma stop right there before I get ahead, because, you know, Chuck has never won a ring. And that's just the joke around everybody else on the TNT sportscast, because Kenny, he has a championship ring. I believe it was for the Houston Rockets, and Shaq, obviously, he has 4 championship rings, 3 with the Lakers and 1 with the Miami Heat. And Chuck, he's very, very bitter about it. He's like, man, I'd be able to have 4 rings if I was riding off of D-Wade and Kobe's coattails. And obviously, you know, there's some truth to that, and there's also some untrue to that, because Shaq does have 3 Finals MVPs, meaning he wasn't carried by Kobe and he wasn't riding his coattail. He was, in fact, producing just as much, if not better, than Kobe Bryant in a lot of these series. And a lot of Kobe fans aren't going to like me saying that, but tough, because Shaq's numbers, they're phenomenal. And in 2001 especially, he was outplayed. And, DeBoyd J in the comments said facts. I mean, there's really no argument for it. Shaq played better in 2000. By far, he played better in 2000. I mean, he was averaging like 38 and 12 or something like that, while Kobe was averaging like 15. But then, you know, in 2001 and 2002, Kobe was picking up the slack, and they both played well together, and they both had enough production to win in the end. Like, it was a team effort from both of them in 2001 and 2002. But Shaq wasn't carried by Kobe. Kobe was carried by Shaq only once. Like, I am a Kobe fan, but I'm just going to say that he was only carried once, and that was in 2000, because there's just really no argument for saying that Kobe played better than Shaq in that series whatsoever. Like, none. But it's really sad seeing that the crew is just going to be breaking up due to NBA rights, and it's just a really sad day. So I'm definitely going to be watching a lot more of the broadcasting crew with the amount of time that they have left before their rights get shifted over to CBS. And again, just a really, really sad day. So with that, we are out of time for this 5th segment. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And there's really nothing else to bring up about this. Like, they are breaking up, but it's really sad. So thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is GSMCPodcast.net, and it's displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That's the end for the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for... Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. Before I end the show, we have a comment coming in from Boomer. Talk about the Pacers. Now, I didn't really talk about the Pacers. I talked about them yesterday, which is why I'm not talking about them today. Simply there's really... If you want to hear what I have to say about the Pacers, you can go ahead and watch my previous video about the Knicks and their series. But, I mean, since you do want me to talk about the Pacers, I might as well go ahead and take a few minutes and do that. So, I mean, they're down 3-2 in the series, and now they're looking to win in Game 6 in Indiana and push the series to 7 games with a chance of winning in Madison Square Garden. But I mean, they played very, very poorly in Game 5, and now they're expected to somewhat bounce back in Game 6. They do have home crowd advantage. But, okay, Boomer is going to go ahead and watch the video. Yeah, because I did make, I do have my own segments, like, talking about the Pacers and the Knicks and their series in the previous, upload that I did. So just go ahead and check that out if you're really interested. But, I mean, maybe in the next maybe in the next segment for Friday, like maybe tomorrow, I'll go ahead and talk and give my predictions on what's gonna happen in the series. But I have the Knicks winning in Game 6. But then again, like there's a huge possibility that the Pacers could end up winning in Game 6 due to the home court advantage, and then pushing the series over to 7 games. But that's really like all the time that I have for this show. Again, watch the rest of the videos if you are interested in the Pacers and what they have to say. I'll keep that in mind for the next segment on Friday. And Boomer has something else in the comments. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Appreciate it, man. So, thank you so much for tuning in. And again, be sure to watch the rest of the uploads that I have on the on the basketball podcast. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that